Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul, and we are
SP Film Viewers.
A couple of weeks ago, we touched upon Irish folklore, and this week we're looking at Japanese folklore.
Has it got a fox in it?
That I don't know specifically.
I just always think that that's kind of with the shrines and there's foxes. I don't know if that's folklore or not, but now you're saying folklore, it just makes me think of Taylor Swift as well. So this is where I'm at.
Right, okay.
I don't really know what folklore for Japanese is. I know Taya would be like, shh, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, I think you're probably like, oh, Paul, why are we doing this? I've got a sense in what the title actually translates to.
Oh, right, okay, go on.
I mean, it's more like ghost stories. So there's folklore in like not in like a super scary way, but more like a spiritual, but like...
Well, that's even worse, spirits scare me. Unless it's a nice spirit.
Well, I don't know
like
what
a wisp, like kind of following...
Well, I think from what I kind of vaguely know on Japanese folklore, it's kind of like people who are like in the forest and put to death in the sense of...
How's that folklore? I don't know, folklore's like mythical, isn't it? And
yeah,
fantasy
mythical.
And
yeah, there's enough...
Nice.
I mean, well, I don't know what to expect entirely.
Jesus. Really selling this.
Yeah, no. I kind of wanted to go that route because obviously the previous...
Oh, because we don't have enough time on Halloween, to put scary things
hang on.
in.
Hear me out. Because I wanted to do a tie-in with playing the Pokemon Legends game over the weekend. So that was, in terms of like the traditional...
That's nice, though.
Japanese, like,
yes.
old Edo
really
period.
Enjoying
of
that, yeah.
So it's kind of like, there's probably... Well, I know there's a lot of films I haven't seen that are involved like samurais mostly, really, to be fair, but I kind of wanted to tie in something with the kind of like a folklore kind of...
So neither of us have seen this?
That's right.
So I can't actually vet and go, Paul, what's going to happen because you don't have a clue?
No, I don't have a clue, but it's not... It's like...
So you haven't vetted this?
It's a PG rating.
Okay.
So
I was going to say, this could shit me up.
It won't be like an 18 or a 15, but... I don't know as to what to expect, but what's interesting about this also, it's quite a long session, but we're going to break it into bits because they're like 4 segmented stories. They're kind of not interlinked in any way. They're kind of just like tales of the unexpected type of thing. So they're kind of like in a anthology.
It's not animated, is it?
No,
either?
it's not.
No, it's not going to be friendly. I don't know, when you say folklore, I think animated, I think cute, I think nice mythical willow tree from Taylor Swift kind of thing, that folklore-y, magical.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm getting that. I think it's going to be dark and grim. Can I see the cover of this, please?
Well, I mean, those things are on Google. Kind of give you sort of like a more spiritualistic type of thing going on, so...
I think it's going to freak me out. I know you're saying it's PG, but it's 3 hours!
Yeah, I just said that.
I know we're breaking it up, but still, like, why?
Yeah, so into chunks, because then we can digest.
Sophie doesn't tolerate more than like an hour. She's like a goldfish.
Well, the ratings seem pretty high in terms of what the scorings on Letterboxd and Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb say. So.
Well, they need to go with what SP say. So,
yeah,
go and then read it to me.
I don't know if you want to know the stories or not of like what the outline of them are, or do you want to keep it a secret? Surprise.
Could not just have one?
Taster.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll read what it says at the beginning as well of this little blurb.
Okay.
Where it says, taking its title from an archaic Japanese word meaning ghost story, this anthology adapts 4 folk tales. So you learn something there from the get-go of what Kwaidan means. It's an archaic Japanese word.
Okay. Thanks for the lesson.
A very vague title, I suppose, but it's the teaser you wanted. A penniless samurai marries for money with tragic results.
Is that it?
That's all that says.
So he dies. Clearly.
I don't know.
Well, if you say tragic results, that means death, doesn't it? And then he comes back as a ghost and haunts somebody.
I'm hoping it's a bit more, not as cut and dry as that, to be honest. Because that'd be pretty boring. It's got to be a bit more interesting than that.
There's no air or grace with me. It's just like, okay, he's dead. Why do I need to watch it? Well, I don't like ghosts as well, or spirits. I don't like people who die and linger.
I'm looking forward to it anyway.
I'm glad you are. You can clearly see why we do SP Film Viewers. It's not for me, is it?
Well, the other one was going to be, other option was going to be more like verging on the similar thing anyway, which are probably a bit more darker. So I'm thinking,
I didn't get to pick though, did I?
No, not this time.
No, you didn't give me a say.
No, but I had this in mind, so.
Okay, wish me luck.
Yeah, so we're recording this bit early, so we're kind of breaking up through the week this time. So obviously to have a sit down over the weekend ahead and record our thoughts over it and digest what we've kind of watched in this 3-hour epic.
I hope I'm wrong, but I've not really been filled with glee. Now you're saying I'm watching a 3-hour ghost story.
Stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sleep, am I? You know what happened with Babadook, and that's not even that bad.
That's true.
My brain, you know how vivid it gets. Like, it just runs away with itself.
I know. Can't be helped. Well, we'll see you on this side.
We're not dying. Oh,
Yeah.
you might be, but I'm probably be a murder if it is.
Okay, see you in a bit.
Hi there, it's Heather from Watching Netflix Without You, the podcast. There are over 1,200 Netflix original feature films and documentaries, and that number is only growing. So I've made it my mission to watch as many as I possibly can, and with a delightful guest or guests in each episode, rate, review, and discuss each film. And that's about it. You can listen to Watching Netflix Without You on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more.
This stunningly beautiful anthology of Japanese ghost stories is one of the most meticulously crafted supernatural films ever made. Gotta say, I'm slightly disappointed with that wording and what this whole experience offered, to be honest.
I feel like he made me waste 3 hours of my life that I will never get back. I know that we love Japanese culture, and I think some people, for the kind of like story kind of side of things, will probably really value this. I just felt personally I didn't get much out of it.
I know what you mean, because I don't know, I had really high expectations from what the overall rating and scoring some people had seen, obviously before going into this, like, oh, it's quite profound and like it's fantastical, and so that's why I picked it. Like, oh, this is intriguing. It's 3 hours, so obviously there's going to be spreading this out like we said, and we did. I'm kind of glad that we did it that way, because there's no way I could have sat through the whole thing, because I was, to be honest with it, of the way we did it, the first two, and then splitting it, and then going back to the other two, it was kind of draining. Going that second half, even
so long was the second half one. It was.
Because, and I don't know if that's just because we had some sake that evening as well, so I don't know if that had any.
I felt like I needed the sake to get me through.
But it was a bit of a slog, I'll say that. So
I am quite disappointed with this. Really, I really wanted to love it more than.
So did I. I really had high hopes.
Well, you said stories and like ghost tales was a little bit like, I don't know if that's going to be my thing, anyways, because it's not up my street. That kind of scenario, but it's hard because I could see the history in it. I could,
yeah,
and
definitely.
I could appreciate the history side of things. But some of the things that were happening were just so unrealistic, and the CGI
in what way?
Well, like for example, we'll dive into the first one, the black hair.
Yeah.
So I really think this was the strongest one for me. Maybe and the second one. I feel like
I think it's starts off strong, then kind of gradually goes weaker and weaker as the stories.
the last one I just didn't even get.
Yeah,
but it's the hair for me in this one. Like, I don't really get the ending of it, and it's like this thing that's like moving, but it's the way that it's done isn't that realistic, I guess. I don't know if it's the age of the film.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things where it doesn't look great.
In the terms of it being filmed in the 1960s, it is tricky when you come back to look, obviously, with a more modern interpretation of what horror is or what supernatural things are. You've got to maybe put, as try as you might, to put yourself in people's shoes of what they must have deemed as like scary or
Back
chilling
then.
or something like that. But I've seen plenty of like black and white horror films, and they're a lot more sinister or chilling than what this has to offer, really.
I don't get why the hair goes rogue though on this like one, and why is it the hair of? I've never seen anything to do with hair go bad and try and strangle you and such. That was like a new one on me.
Well, we'll try and break it down as best I can from what I've kind of got from this.
Can I do this one because I enjoyed this one?
Okay, but just before that, the opening credits where it's kind of like listing all the film titles or the stories that are involved in this. It kind of sets up like this is more like an avant-garde, like artistic piece because of it's kind of like all the swirling inks and
it looks really stunning.
Yeah, that looks really pretty and like the mysterious, like ethereal kind of thing going on there. So it's like, okay, this is starting strong. Obviously, I'll let you get into talking about this one, but for the opening mise en scène, how introduced to like where this location is in Kyoto, and it's all like almost like a rundown ryokan Japanese building, and it's all like overgrown and stuff, and it's kind of like an eerie presence to that, and so okay, this is starting off strong, really. So as I would say, the strongest points throughout all these films, maybe not the last one in particular, but what they have in terms of the cinematography going on are what the strongest points as a theme throughout. The storylines may not be particularly strong, but the scenery and what that has to convey is the selling
They're
point.
working with what they've got, aren't they, really?
Okay, so I'll let you go with...
Okay, so black hair, it's to do with a samurai who's married to, I'm guessing like the love of his life, basically, his kind of partner and soul partner.
Yep.
And they're in poverty. They live in this like ruined, wrecked house.
Yep.
It's dropping to bits. The garden needs maintaining. It's all they can afford and what they can with what works and means that they have at the moment. So the samurai gets the opportunity to marry a richer woman, basically, more kind of wealthy, has a horse and carriage kind of thing. It's all kind of grandeur.
Yeah.
And the principle is he has to divorce the love of his life to move on, and he leaves her in the disarray of the house, basically on her own, which looks like she's a weaver or basically not getting in much money. And he's like, no, I need to. If I stick with you, I'm not going to get anywhere.
It's all about him wanting the status, really, to go up the ranks.
Feels like it's one of those things, and people in fame and everything like that. Like I think even Ed Sheeran said it, like you can have all the money in the world, but if you have no one to share it with, it's kind of means nothing.
Yeah.
So money doesn't bring you happiness either. It helps if you have it. You kind of then see this phase of where he's going through flashbacks of his wife. So he sees that he's evidently missing her. He's wondering how she's doing. He's constantly on his mind. And this other lady that he's with at the moment, his new wife, a lot younger, but very more self-absorbed in herself. She's more selfish. She doesn't really care about him.
Yep.
He's not really letting her in, though, to be fair. So he's not giving her that opportunity because he's too strung upon his ex-wife.
Yeah.
It's like you probably leaving for a better opportunity, but then they won't be as nice as me.
Is that what you think?
Yeah. I let you get away with murder. I think that's what it is. Like he said, she's got a softer voice. She was more approachable. She was just a nicer soul than this one.
If you're higher up, you're in the higher class, then you're more reserved and harder to get along with as such.
I do think the less money you have, the more generous you are.
Yeah.
I always think that's the thing. And it's amazing how somebody who is worse off would help somebody. I feel like sometimes with a class of a higher up class, they're less likely to help somebody than if you're in a bit of poverty but not suffering as much as somebody else. And I think this is where it's showing different classes. It's showing that striving for money, it isn't your true happiness.
Yeah. I think the moral of this story in particular is like the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Mhm.
Really, you shouldn't just be aspiring to what you think, especially in almost a dickish way of like, oh, I'll just leave my wife and go and find a better one type of thing, and then just thinking he can just come crawling back.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this isn't working out. And
After all this time, and he's made money, and now he goes back to that house. And it's really weird, isn't it, that scene? Because it's like you feel a bit like, well, it looks like it's been burnt down.
Yeah, it's been like 10 years, I think.
It's really overgrown is the garden. It
Yeah.
looks like he can't even get through to like the front door.
Yeah.
It's that bad.
Yeah.
And it looks really dark. There's no lights on. I'm like, I said, why does he think she hasn't moved on in 10 years? That really infuriated me. Like, she's just going to be in the same spot waiting for you. Like, do you really think she hasn't got a life?
Well, yeah, but he goes in and she pretty much is.
But that's what he wants.
Yeah.
That's what he thinks. He thinks that she's not moved on.
Yeah, so he's clinging on to the past in that sense, thinking, right, where's the place that she's going to be dwelling? And that's in the exact same place where I left her, pretty much, doing what she was doing with making the threads. So I think why the title's called The Black Hair is because it obviously of all the things that he's like or remembering of her, like from the past, like how your mannerisms and how you spoke and everything and all that. But it's like it was her hair that was the most appealing to him for whatever reason.
It's the softest hair in the whole world.
So the bit at the end where it's kind of like, I point out that obviously that when he goes to see her, it's nighttime, so it's kind of like, also that's when spirits are active, aren't they? And so
people think that's what the human people think.
Yeah.
Probably they're out all the time and you just don't know.
So he's sleeping in his abode with her, and then when he wakes in the morning to find out, she's now like a skeleton, basically, decayed dust. And then at this point, he's now becoming like.
But why? This is the bit I don't get. And then the hair comes off her head, and then it's like.
It's like the hair is clinging on to him, literally. That, like, in the fact that, like, that she's still.
Do you think
gripped.
It's like a little bit? Because she is like, oh, no, I forgive you, it's fine. It's like, no woman would forgive you, literally, for leaving her for 10 years in poverty, not being there for her. And then, do you think she doesn't forgive him? And actually, she resents him from it?
Yeah, probably. There's a bit of that, probably. And it's like, vengeance, and now you've taken... she's maybe just been waiting for so long, and now time is now going to catch up with you. That's why he's decaying and stuff. It's like, forcing how long... she's been longing for him. It's almost like payback.
He deserves it. It does?
Oh, no, it definitely does. Yeah, I agree with that. This is like one of those, again, like fables of like, don't treat people like that.
With this one, I do like it. It does have a moral behind it. The ending, I did like say, what the F, in my book.
That's how it ends.
Yeah, because it's just a little bit like, I didn't see it coming, and it's a bit dramatic, and it's hair. Like, how can hair kill anybody? It just seems a bit out there, but I think it's one of the strongest out of the 4 that we've watched, and I do think it has a good principle. So me, I like that.
I would personally say the second one is more my favourite, mainly through the use of imagery that's going on. Again, rather than the story, there's a lot. It's very, very strong visuals in this one.
It is, apart from there's 2 things that are kind of my weak points with these. The weird screechy music at the beginning of this one is a bit eerie, and it's just a bit...
But that's to its merit, I think, because it's meant to be.
It just goes through me that whatever that note is, it a violin, like
Almost something
wrong.
like that. Yeah,
and this, I know you quite liked it. The effect of the sky. No, I just saw that as really. It was worked well, but it was really badly done to what nowadays could. I think it was done good for them, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
For me, it looked dated from my watch.
Yeah, I think it was all done on essentially a soundstage, which, surprise, like most other films, but obviously some films like modern days can get away with it, not like completely obvious. But there's something about that was kind of like hauntingly sinister or eerie, really, because like the clouds are like in the shape of eyes, like watchful.
I didn't notice that until
over
you
the
said
situation. Like most of the time, they were either closed or when there were key moments, was like they were wide open, looking at the character that was the story was involved in. The story's called "Woman in the Snow."
Now I'm wondering if the sky was kind of like in control of that woman in the snow. So whatever that sky eye thing is, if he like kind of controlled her a little bit, depending on her.
If he controlled her.
Oh well, the sky. I'm classing the sky as a he. I don't know why. So the eye in the sky controlled her moves a little bit. I think certain things, the way that the story pans out, I don't think she actually wanted to do what she had to, but it was more like she has to do this because she is the woman in the snow, not because she wanted to.
That's the reveal, anyway, with that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Because what happens on the base is a young man and an older man are out in the woods getting some wood, because they're woodcutters, and they're travelling through a snowstorm, and the old man succumbs to frostbite, which I kind of think is a clever way of her representing that.
Yeah,
because she kind of like blows like, and it's like, gets the frost on his face, and that's how he dies.
She takes the life out of him, doesn't she?
Basically,
freezes him to death.
Yeah, and for whatever reason,
it's because he's dishy. That's why.
Well, she was about to take him out as well, but he was kind of like looking at her in the way as if he was like looking her up and down type of thing, like, oh, she's right kind of thing. But yeah, she kind of like says, well, I'll spare your life, but you cannot tell anybody about what happened here.
And if you do, then I'll come back for you and you'll die.
Yeah.
So I've got two ways I can think this. Either she's really manipulative and horrible to the fact that she then comes back as a normal person to marry him and have 3 children with him to get her revenge back on him.
But I don't see
she generally likes him, hopes he never speaks of it again.
I think it's more that one.
Wants relationship with him.
Because why would you go through all that trouble?
I don't know.
There'd be no point.
She'd just killed him there and then.
Yeah. So I've 2 things here. One is the fact that this one is semi-believable as like a folklore tale because it's stories of like wanderers traveling in the mountains and they're coming across like snow spirits or something like that. As taken out like weary travelers.
Didn't you say there's a Pokemon that does that?
Yeah, there's a Pokemon based on that called Frostlass, which is a similar stories like like in snowstorms.
See that big mountain one?
No, it's like a ghostly, more of a ghostly one.
Oh, okay. Is he a ghost type?
She is a ghost ice type, so that's like Snow Maiden, really. So that's what that's based on in terms of lore. So that there's not knowledge I've got from that, and it's like, I can believe that as being a ghostly apparition type of thing. Mm-hmm. Secondly, before I even got to the end, okay, as soon as she said, "I'll spare your life, but you can't tell anyone about this," I recalled of there was a film or again another anthology series where there was a similar storyline scenario, and it was like, I don't know where that's from. I'm sure I've heard this before, and I was right. It's called Tales from the Dark Side, and there was a similar thing where this man witnesses murder of a man by this gargoyle creature, and that similarly says, right, you tell anybody about this, I'm gonna come and kill you. And shortly after that, he runs into this woman, and they get together, and then they have kids. But the twist turns out that I think he must tell her about this instance for whatever reason. I can't recall.
Well, you would. It's his wife. Why wouldn't you tell her?
This crazy thing happened one night,
Mm.
and it turns out she was the gargoyle, and that the way that also ends is that the kids also are also gargoyles as well. So the
okay, so there is a reason behind it. Whereas with this one, she kind of leaves him with the children.
So I wondered if that was going to be the similar. That was obviously this was done way before that film even came out, but whether there was inspired in the same way that they were going to be like ghost spirits or something. Now he didn't have any children; he was left alone, but he was literally.
I don't know which one I'd prefer.
You have to look after the kids now. Sorry.
Yeah, three of them as well.
Yeah.
It's not like there's just one or two. 3 little kids kind of look after them.
Mm-hmm.
Which she goes back to the eye then. She walks into the eye like
it turns to the snowstorm scenario, yeah.
So I'm wondering if the sky is in a bit of control with her. Like, if she hadn't have said, if you don't do this, this and this, and if you don't look after him, then you will die. Is it a case of she would have had to kill him and she didn't actually want to? So she's kind of done it out of love to leave him? Because somebody else maybe in the sky is controlling, because she's a snow woman.
The seasons, you mean? More so.
Yeah.
Maybe not just the sky.
Yes. Seasons.
Yeah. Well, I think obviously this is obvious connection of being sort of set in December, but apparently these 4 stories are all obviously to represent the 4 seasons, but I don't really see anything in particularly like connecting of the other ones as to what would represent summer or spring or anything.
I don't know what black hair would represent.
No, I don't really know. But in terms of moral, I think it must be like keep your promises, if not for your children's sake.
I think it's one of those things, isn't it?
Or the past will haunt you.
If somebody tells you something, it doesn't mean you have to tell the whole world.
Yeah.
You know, some things can be left secret, and you can kind of show your worth that way.
Mm-hmm. But the visuals in this, like, the icy blue, cold lighting that we've got in this is really effective, and that's, pardon the pun, gives it the chills, I suppose.
I do think it works quite well, this one, and the warmth, and when they go back to his home
and
as well.
It's like summery, and the sky also reflects that as well. And it's like the warmth, and then it's like almost like summer love when he kind of finds that.
Yeah.
The woman who is actually the snow spirit, yeah.
I think the only thing I would say, which makes me giggle a little bit, is when she's walking away and they do like that shot and she looks like she's having to shuffle to try and look like she's floating a little bit away.
Okay, yeah.
So that made me laugh, but obviously it's just the way that they're having to depict it. And it's like this little shoe, which is quite funny.
Yeah.
But I did actually enjoy this one. I think between the woman in the snow and the black hair, I think they are quite good ones to watch. Then just stop. The only other thing I thought was a bit strange, and I'm not 100% sure, is the snow woman.
Yeah.
Seemed to have like smile in a grimacing kind of black teeth way.
Yeah.
And the eyebrows, I don't know if this is a thing, probably Taya would be able to tell us. She seemed to be like they shaved their own eyebrows off and then put them up higher.
Yeah.
And they were like this little smudge line.
Yeah, I know you did bring that up when we were watching, and in the first one as well, it was the same thing. So I did took it upon myself to do a little bit of research on this. So maybe got some sources to help you out.
Because I'm thinking it's showing, especially the teeth, as like a bad thing.
Actually, it's not supposed to come across that way, particularly in older, like Edo period.
Okay.
So what I've kind of found out from a bit of research, the process is called ohaguru. It's based on, like, in the old Japanese times, the pitch black objects were highly regarded as being extremely pretty. So you might think of, obviously, like when they made, like, bowls or cups or anything, and it being black, it's almost like, wow, this is like exquisitely expensive type of thing. So there's something in that. But this is more akin to what, like, today's standards of whitening our teeth are like.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So, using a solution called kenemisu, I think that's how you say that, which is like an acetate from iron fillings mixed with vinegar and compounds from vegetable or tea. So that was put on the teeth
And
to
that
make
would
it
make
black.
it whiter.
No, blacker.
But would then that whiten their teeth in the process?
No, I don't think it was. It wasn't anything to do with.
Oh, so it wasn't a remedy to whiten your teeth. It was actually to make
The
your
reason,
teeth black.
Yes, but it was first used to celebrate the coming of age.
Okay.
This is in boys or girls,
Right.
really. So to show you sense of maturity. But during the Edo period, it was mainly done by wealthy married women, or geishas used to practice this. But it was just a sense of class.
It doesn't look classy. I don't know where they've thought that from, but yeah.
No. That's what I found out of that. But with the eyebrows shaved, and which is called higimeyu.
You're doing very well. I don't know if you're pronouncing these right, but you're doing better than I would.
And then applying the fake eyebrows to higher or above your forehead.
Mm.
That process is called tenzu mayu.
But why?
It also started as a coming of age ceremony.
Okay.
Yeah.
No one has eyebrows that high.
No. But the reason, which kind of makes more sense, perhaps, than the teeth blackening, it was to do with when you were noble and for political posturizing.
Oh, so the higher up the eyebrows, the higher you are.
No.
Oh.
Not quite. No. It's so as to not show emotion to your opponents, but like political opponents.
Right.
Obviously, like in terms of like maybe making deals or something.
It's like a poker face.
Yeah, exactly. So because obviously the most expressive place on yours is with your eyes. If
it
you
is
like
me.
Eyes wider, or your mouth might curl, or go up down. But if your eyebrows are going like up down or like angry and stuff, but if you've got no eyebrows to express that and they're just high up on your forehead, where you might.
My forehead's quite expressive, to be fair.
So that's the reason behind that, really. But the process was later adopted by married women so they could prevent showing emotion to other men other than the husband.
So she fancied him. But,
Yeah.
Why didn't men have to shave their eyebrows off? Poor women.
Yeah, not sure. But that's my findings on that.
Thank you for researching into
so
that. I appreciate it.
Little factoids in this episode, if nothing else, for people.
Need it.
Yeah. So on to Hoichi the Earless. This one was the longest, and I really feel like it didn't need to be this long.
This was ridiculous. I feel like it would have been good if it was shortened. It felt like it went on forever. And I feel like it did have it was like a monastery, I believe.
Yep.
And he was a monk. Clearly he was blind and everyone kind of really cared about him. He seemed like a really nice character to have.
Mm-hmm.
Just seemed to be, it eked out a little bit.
It really did, to get to the end result of what the film was about. Like, why is he called the Earless when
he's blind?
He's blind.
Yeah.
I mean, we went and witnessed like a chanting ceremony when we were in the monastery that we stayed at in Japan. That was a lot more engaging than what this was. Maybe because we were there first person, but this was just like, I don't know. It had this retelling of this great war, which is the tale of Hike, with the Battle of Dano Ura. I think that's just what I got from that. And it was like a chanting, singing of a sea battle of the Genpai War, and it's obviously showing these two clans,
samurai clans,
which just looked a bit ropey, and felt the most theatrical production of it, because obviously again war turn against a painted sky backdrop, and
also those boats
fighting on them. It was a bit like whoa. It
just looked really comical and not in a great way. Who would go on? First of all, why, unless you've got like your pirates, why would you fight on water that way and like walk across? You can just easily drown.
Yeah,
it's not easy to fight on that, and then you must have really upper core strength to be able to balance when it's wishy-washy as well, and then you're trying to stab somebody. it's not the best idea.
No.
But his chanting in this at the beginning, I was like, can he stop now, please?
Yeah.
It's just going on forever. And it wasn't really the nicest of sounds.
So I don't know in terms of what this has in terms of horror. I'm guessing it's showing the horrors of war because it seems like a bit ghostly with, I guess the chanting is kind of like almost like a spiritual thing it's coming across as, like a bit like, ooh, like really like
ghostly
that
kind of
thing, and just minimalistic on obviously the sound that he's playing with a Japanese instrument called a biwa. It's like a ding ding ding.
Yeah,
ding,
it's
ding.
like a guitar, but it's not held sideways. It's more upright.
Yeah, played with like this metal,
and
it looks like one of those what you scrape
wallpaper off.
with,
Yeah.
something. And the imagery that you've got is kind of ghostly when he has to come to perform or retell these stories that he's singing, to like the spirits of the past that have like we want to relive the whole.
Why though? I don't know.
I don't know. But
and why they're picking on him a little bit, I feel, because they know he doesn't know he's kind of getting
what he's getting into because he's blind.
He can't see them, so it's like only he can hear, and obviously they sound real enough. He's not thinking they're spirits, so he's not thinking he's playing to dead people's tombstones, basically. So that's a bit mean, I think.
Yeah. So they've kind of got him, suckered him into doing all this, and just
also they've made him sound like he's the best one, and this person high up wants him to play, and it's like, no, probably thinking, he's the only sucker that we can get to play for us. And it just goes on forever with the nights.
It does,
of him going and disappearing. I think it happens about 3 times until they kind of go out and look for him.
Yeah, kind of like, no, seriously, where have you been?
Yeah.
Thing. It's like, well,
and he's been told not to say anything because really it should be somebody higher up that should be going and playing this kind of show, so to speak.
So when they go, obviously, I think it's when the storm is happening, and they kind of other people from the temple are going to find him, and it's like, no, you've been playing to just gravestones, and that kind of looked quite eerie.
Yeah, it
obviously
did.
The fog and rolling
smoke,
fog and stuff.
Yeah,
and you've got the little willow wisps. If they look a bit funny, it's kind of effective with what they're trying to come across as, like as if they're like some spirits.
I feel like this bit was like, this worked well. The ending, it did, but it just was a long time coming for it.
Especially as when the monks are there trying to help him out. Right, we're going to write this holy text all over your body, which is kind of like, if you've seen the cover art of what's on the Blu-ray or DVD or whatever, then that's like the most famous thing that's on the artwork there. Quite striking, because you're like, what's that all about? So it's like almost like a warding protection spell almost, so that the spirits can't come and take him away because they reckon that it'll be torn to pieces or whatever.
Well, it kind of was, wasn't it? Because they forgot they did half a job and didn't paint his ears.
Well, yeah, no, they pretty much spent, I don't know how much time that would actually taken to write these, Japanese symbols all over his body, literally everywhere.
Was it everywhere unless it was covered by something?
That's right. Well, no, actually no, because I'm pretty sure
they did all his top and everything,
his
didn't they?
toes and everything and everything. He still what? All his body, and he was wearing clothes. So I guess you would have had to do that, wouldn't you? But they forgot to do his ears, which I guess is kind of tricky because like all the indentations and stuff like that. So when the spirit comes a calling, like, Koichi, where are you?
Then yells it.
And so we're kind of like, okay, right, so they've put those things on so that you can't be found, but it's like the ears are glowing in the dark almost.
That is clever how it's done back then, really.
Yeah. And through that, this is where, right, okay, well, this vengeful spirit's like, right, I'll just take the ears from you because I can't finish the story, so we'll take these away as punishment type of thing. So
I think as well, it's to show that he tried to go and get Hoichi, and this is all that he could find left of him.
Yeah.
Kind of saying, I did try and do my end of the deal so that when he's going back, he's not getting the repercussions of not bringing him there. Yeah.
And the sound when he's trying to pull this off, that's obviously the most...
It's horrible.
Horrible as well. That like a screechy... No, it's not like the violin stuff, but obviously I knew it wasn't going to be too graphic, but it's kind of like an odd thing to think about, isn't it? Without a person without ears, what that would even look like. But obviously,
But the way that he was ripping them off as well, it wasn't
yeah.
like somebody just got a knife to cut them off. I know that sounds even more, but the thought of tearing it,
Yeah.
that was, and the sound of it just, didn't bode well with me.
And how she's like clinging his side of his face, going like, well, yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. So I'm guessing he's now blind and deaf, bless him.
So yeah. And then what gets me about this is like the monks are like, "Oops, well, we kind of goofed there, didn't we? Like,
should have checked.
Should have checked that before you sent him away to do that. But oh well, never mind.
It's what it is. We can't do anything about it now.
It's like, thanks, man. Really appreciate that. But from this, Hoichi still comes out on top. He's somehow the wealthiest because he can retell these stories to an audience of this high priest or whatever that comes to visit, and I guess he has a happy life, I guess, despite
not being able to. I can imagine that was really difficult, not being able. I think I'd rather be deaf,
yes,
and still have my sight than kind of be blind. But I do think having both, that just feels really isolated to the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
At least you can communicate if you're deaf.
Surprised it didn't come out the fact that he been able to talk as well, like his tongue got ripped out or something, and then be like, yeah,
sad and weird, just weird. This was like the longest dragging one ever.
Didn't need to be.
No, they could have cut it down so many times. They could have done just after the second time of him wandering away, go see where he's going, and paint his ears, and then it'd have been fine. But in a cup of tea, right?
Yeah.
What the hell is happening here? I don't understand any of it. At least a little bit you get a moral with kind of the rest of them. But this one, it's only half an hour. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Who are these people?
Sorry, just before we do that, what would you say is the moral from the third one?
I think it's more... I don't actually truly know. I feel like there's some moral there. I just can't find it.
I think it's probably something to do with... It's good to remember the past, but don't...
Dwell.
Yeah, adhere to it. Yeah, something like that, I think. Don't get involved in dwelling on it too much. Or again, that might come back and...
haunt you.
Bite you and just... Yeah.
Clutching at straws, I think maybe.
I think so. I'll say this, I don't think I can't really find any sort of moral with this last one in a cup of tea.
I was really excited. I was really excited to see this one because I love a good cup of tea. And I was like, oh yeah, let's have a look. It's got a good title. In a cup of tea, I can relate. I can't relate. I don't understand what it's showing me, what it's telling me at all. I don't have a clue, Paul. I don't know who this man that kept on appearing in his tea was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is there a face in his tea? What's going on?
Well, I thought it was... I'm still not really much clear on it, but I feel like... I assumed it was like, oh, this is some, like, past person he's kind of, like, done wrong to or something. It's like, remember me type of
thing.
And
then he drinks his tea. Then it clearly disappears.
Yeah.
Oh, and I can't keep up. I just remember the ending. I really switched off, and it was only half an hour, and I was like, it's putting me off wanting to drink tea, this is.
It's really weird, because it's like, he drinks the man he sees in the cup of tea, and then he comes back to him later on as if, like, well, you've swallowed me, as if, like, swallowed the soul of me or something. But I don't quite get the connection of what he had to do with him in the first place, because he didn't make that apparently clear. No. And then all of a sudden he comes across these other three samurais in, like, well, not even mannequins, because they're real people.
They don't look real though. They don't.
Well, they move for like real people.
But I feel like the faces were a bit.
I feel like the colouring was supposed to mean something, blue, orange, and green, but it doesn't really go anywhere. And he just keeps trying to fight them, which he thinks he's got them one moment, and then they come back. Like, now you're just going to be torment you now for
drinking
forever.
Somebody's soul. Well, stop popping up in my tea then.
And then the story just kind of ends, and the narrator at this point is like, it's from one of his stories. At the start he would say, like, right, why do sometimes these stories kind of just end and don't go, and did the writer die or something or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And so in the same way, that kind of happens to him, because when he's waiting for the publisher to come to his house, and the publisher comes at the end, and he's like, "Where's the author?" He's like, "Oh, the woman, the housemaid." And it's like, "All right, I'll go find him." And she sees him in the water bowl.
So creepy.
And then the publisher also goes and has a look, like, what's going on here, type of thing, and walks away. And then that's kind of like how the film ends. So it's like the author's trapped in his own writings or something. I don't know. But why? I don't really know.
Just remember the man in the creepy barrel of like looking like water, which was going to be made into tea. And I'm like, I don't really want a creepy man in my tea. I just didn't get any of it. I'm not going to lie. I can't even say it was good. It was only half an hour and I was well confused. Yeah,
definitely the weakest one. At least all the other ones had some sort of structure. If the third one was a little bit too long in telling what it needed to tell.
It still had something to tell though, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Couldn't follow on somewhat. But this one was, just, I cannot find any sort of moral from this. There must be some deeper meaning to it, but I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry.
I don't get it.
But
I really don't. I find it really hard to understand it completely, and it was. I'm glad it was only half an hour.
In terms of the whole runtime of 3 hours, really just.
I'd have been happy with the hour and a half of the first two, and stop there. I think personally.
Yeah, I think if I was to revisit this at any point, it would probably be just to focus on those two.
I don't really think I'd want to revisit.
No,
I've seen him now.
Yeah, sad to say, it's like I really thought this would be something like I'd want to come back to, but maybe Frame Around or something. But I'd seen it now, but I'm not like immediately wanting to go back to this anytime soon.
I'll buy it for your birthday if you want.
You just won't be watching it, will you?
No.
No. The only thing I'd be more interested in maybe internally learning more information on is actually going for the source material, which is based on stories from Kwaidan, stories and studies of strange things, which
sounds like something you'd like, yeah.
Which I guess is kind of strange things that have been portrayed in this film.
Well, yeah, really. Hair attacking you. I don't really see that in the newspapers.
It'd be funny, wouldn't it? So, overall, we're not going to do them individually, of course, because we've kind of spoken about like what we think is best and what isn't. But wrapping it up all in one little bow of like what you found of the experience, I'll obviously start with this. Positives, as I said, the artistic vision that's put into the scenery, the camera work, and for the most part, the music is atmospheric in what it's trying to convey. The bad is really how the stories go. Sometimes it's the length and how that's structured. Some of it is like, I can see where this is going. That still is very prominent with the second one, mainly because as I described, it's like, I've kind of heard this story before, and it didn't shock me as to what the twist reveal was going to be with that. And I certainly didn't. Maybe you weren't supposed to get anything from like a normal structure with the final film because of how it ended abruptly with that one story, and then it was kind of like reflected on. I don't know. It's very strange, and I think the only other positive I can think is and with the sound, it was kind of like how, particularly in the first one, how it was kind of jarring in like how when you kind of saw the movement and you expected like clatter bang crash when he's running into the walls and stuff, like banging on to get out and everything, and then shortly after that then there's like sound cues there, so it's kind of like catching you off guard with how that was done. But I think that's kind of like it making it a bit more theatrical, and some of these things felt very theatre production as opposed to really cinematic, like some other examples of Japanese cinema might come across, really. So I feel like there's better examples, and I kind of wish we kind of watch something else that was a bit shorter, because I can think of one film in particular that I've seen but you haven't seen, and I think you probably get a lot more out of it, and that's more like a ghost story, but in a nice spiritual
way.
Not like a scary ghost story way, but more ethereal ghost story way, and that you probably enjoy that a lot more. Really, so
I think that's the risk with
some of these,
with the fact of us doing it, where we're having one where you have seen it and I haven't, and obviously this is one where we both haven't seen it, and sometimes
you can't.
It can just be a case of what have we just watched?
Yeah, you can't win them all.
No,
and for Japanese cinema, this is a low bar for what I've seen. Sad to say, I kind of wish I could give it a bit higher of a score, but I think it's probably sitting at 6.5.
Okay, yeah, it's valid.
Yeah.
It's really valid. I think we're not far off from one another, to be fair.
Yeah, sad to say, it's mostly the production that's the selling point, but everything else is a bit. I'm not intrigued to be going back to it anytime soon. So
okay, I'll scribble that off my birthday list for you then. So for me, I think I agree with everything you've just said. It really is the first two are the strong point. It gets weaker as it goes along. If I was just scoring a cup of tea one well, I think that'd be like a 2. Because it's like, what the hell is going on? However, with the first two being quite strong, goodish moral story, it kind of gives you a bit of purpose behind it. I can follow those. Would I want to spend 3 hours of my life doing this if I'd have known, like, somehow you go into the future I would have said, no, Sophie, don't do it. Don't waste your time.
No, if I had watched it, vetted it beforehand, I wouldn't have
picked it
because I know you wouldn't have enjoyed it, because I have a feeling I probably wouldn't have.
I don't know if we hadn't done it for this podcast, if I would have not actually probably persevered.
No, you did say that to me. It's like you said, Paul, if we weren't doing this recording, would we continue? I said, might not have done, to be honest.
I think we'd have stopped after the snow one, probably.
Yeah.
I think we'd have left it there.
Yeah.
So for the scoring, I think it's just going to have to be a 6.
Okay.
I can't really rate it any higher than that. I was going to rate it lower, possibly a 5, but then I was thinking, well, that's not being fair to the first two.
No, exactly. And there's a lot to take from the production of it, and obviously it's not, take it as for what the time period was and everything and what it's trying to convey. Obviously, it's not going to stand up to the standards of what people might think of a ghost story is, particularly. It's got to have like boo jump scares or anything like that.
I didn't mind that, though. I quite liked it the way it was. It's just, it seemed a little bit strange with some of the concepts of what can come out and get you. Now I need to worry about my own hair. And I think it's just, really sadly, it's the other two that ruin it. It just makes it longer and just, I think I don't have the attention span for it, I guess, personally. I'm a bit of a goldfish.
But that's not to say that you shouldn't check it out if you're not intrigued by it. I know we've maybe slagged it off a little bit, but maybe someone else might get something out of it. So if you do want to check it out, my recommendation, if you don't want to pay for a disc.
I feel like this should be Paul's little tips on where to get free watches.
We did it through Amazon Prime's BFI player, and this was on a trial basis, so just like more like the Wolf Walkers Apple TV Plus. If you want to just get it for a couple of weeks, it's like a 14-day trial, and you can obviously break up like we did and just check out via that and see if you might get something more out of it than we did, perhaps. And then
if somebody does watch it, please let us know what your thoughts are and give us any other things that we might have missed.
Yeah, but you're intrigued to have a conversation about their interpretation of what they took from it, or just whatever, just to have a conversation about film. It'd be good to do.
We always like doing that, don't we?
Yeah. So, that being said, thank you very much for making it to the end of the episode.
Thank you, Sophie, for watching 3 hours. This is commitment to SP Film viewers. Well done, Sophie.
And if you want to check out some of our more mainstream episodes, perhaps.
Yeah, go.
go and find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever else you might get your podcasts from. And follow us on social media platforms, Instagram and Twitter, under the handle SP_filmviewers.
We also have a Buy Me a Coffee page. If anyone wants to feel sorry for us for watching 3 hours of a really long film, you can be so generous and donate to even a small price of a coffee. God, I think I need a cup of tea with no weird men in them.
You didn't, when we've finished watching it, you weren't like having bad dreams about that, were you?
No, if anything, I was just drained from watching it, I think. I was just like, oh, can I just go to bed? I'm knackered. It is lengthy with subtitles to watch.
There's definitely better examples of films that are long, like, and with subtitles like Parasite.
Oh, that's gripping though.
Yeah,
you you forget that you're reading when you watch that.
Yeah.
Might have to be one that we can go back to.
And like I said about like how other films that I could have picked for us. I mean, even like when we watched Seven Samurai, and that was like 4 hours and something, wasn't it? Going on. And that was more engaging, wasn't it? Than
yes, it was. It was long though.
Long, but
it had a better story to it.
Yeah, definitely. So I apologise for what we've watched, and I'll try and think of something that.
At least you'll have watched it this time, so it's your fault, definitely.
Yeah. And I'll give you some options as well, rather than just going blind. But maybe that's something. Obviously, I had good intentions with this, but it kind of backfired on me a little bit. So.
I think it's funny because we've got this little intro where you're like, oh, I'm really looking forward to this, and then you're like, oh. And I think that's
it's kind of good that it worked out that way in this sense, because it can't all be winners.
No,
so.
It's true.
So thank you very much for listening once again, and we will speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time.
Bye.
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 Bye.